This is The Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. Today will be random. One scientist was baffled by something that did not make sense. He noticed that whenever the sale of ice cream went up, homicide also went up. An increase in the sale of ice cream resulted in an increase in crime. Or did it? The more statistical tests he did, the more the truth came to him. Then he realized that the lowest common denominator between an increase in the sale of ice cream and an increase in homicide was warm weather. During the summer, people eat ice cream. But during the summer, people also get irritable. The irritation drives them to homicide. Ice cream and homicide are not related, but they are brought together by hot weather. Now we will pose a random question. What is the relationship between the population census happening next year, changing of constituency boundaries next year, and the coming referendum? Like ice cream and homicide, the three are not related. But if you look closely, there is a common denominator, something that ties all the three together. What is it?
Census, creating new constituencies, and the referendum are all connected by one thing: changing the structure of government. Period. Everything is lined up to facilitate this change. And at the Fort Hall School of Government, we stand behind the drivers of this change. Those opposed to change are politicians. Those driving change are leaders. Politicians think of the next election. Leaders think of the next generation. And this is why we stand with Raila on the referendum. In the meantime, Ruto has become a frog, and he does not know it. If you put a frog into boiling water, it will jump out. But if you put it in a pot of cold water, the frog will sit pretty. And when you increase the heat of the water, the frog will relax. As the water gets hotter, the frog will enjoy the steam bath. In this state of relaxation, it will get sleepy and dreamy. By the time the water reaches boiling point, the frog will have no energy to jump out. Ruto is in a pot of cold water, and the heat is going up slowly. Will he survive the Uhuru Raila boiling?
We are living in the age of freakonomics, the age when things do not add up. Today, Uhuru and Ruto are selling tuko pamoja and calling Raila muhoroki. Then the handshake happens and freakonomics kicks in. Uhuru and Raila begin to roast Ruto like a frog. Ruto tells us it is not fair. But is it? All is fair in love, war, and politics. We call this realpolitik. The end justifies the means. And this is what Ruto does not get. Uhuru's end is not Ruto's end. During the first term, Uhuru's end was Ruto's end, and the end was 2017. But after the election, Uhuru's end changed. Instead of changing tact, Ruto became the dreamy frog in the boiling pot. In the meantime, what Raila wants became what Uhuru wants. The end for the two men became leadership, not politics. And the referendum became their instrument of change. In sum, 2022 will be about Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. One will become ceremonial president. The other will become executive prime minister. One will become head of state. The other head of government. And the referendum will make this possible.
But what does the referendum, census, and delimiting of boundaries have to do with each other. What is the connection? One, there will be an executive prime minister. He will be the head of government. Then, we will have a ceremonial president, and he will be the head of state. After the referendum, there will be no presidential election. Yes, the ceremonial president will be elected by parliament, and there will be no Maraga to nullify that election. Many democracies, including South Africa and other stable economies, elect their presidents through parliament. Only banana republics elect directly, and this is how they subject themselves to the Maragas and other political vagaries. 2. If the referendum creates a ceremonial president and an executive prime minister, we have no idea who will be the president and who will be the executive prime minister. In Ethiopia and India, the prime minister is head of government, but the two countries also have a ceremonial president who is the head of state. If the referendum adopts this model, there will be a head of state and a head of government. In 2022, Uhuru and Raila will be the head of government and the head of state. And so we ask, what is wrong with this?
Yes, what is wrong with having Raila as head of state and Uhuru as head of government in 2022? What is wrong with doing away with presidential elections and the headaches of Maraga and Chebukati? And who said that electing the president directly is a good thing anyway? If Britain, one of the most mature democracies, does not elect their prime minister directly, what is wrong with Kenya adopting this model? What is wrong with Kenya electing a ceremonial president through parliament and the executive prime minister through the majority party? At independence, the head of state was the Queen of England. The head of government was the executive prime minister, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. The idea was to create two centers of power that would check each other. But when we combine the office of head of state with that of head of government, dictatorship was invented. Historical fact. Raila is therefore inviting us to go back to the independence vision of our founding fathers, a vision where power was located in two centers and included everyone. He's inviting us to shift from monolithic democracy to consociational democracy. And this is why we support the referendum.
Regarding politics of change, Raila is a grandmaster. No one can smell change as freshly as Raila does, and that is why we cannot argue with the referendum. If Raila says it will happen, it will happen. However, I'm violently opposed to an executive prime minister and a ceremonial president. But I'm prepared to revise my position if three questions are answered. 1. Is a referendum a vehicle for creating positions for individuals? If the answer is yes, then I support the referendum. When nations are young, they are built by individuals. When mature, individuals are built by nations. A nation is still young. It cannot build individuals. It can only be built by individuals. Creating a position for Raila so that he can build our nation is therefore perfect with me. 2. Is creating an executive prime minister and ceremonial president equal to extending Uhuru Kenyatta's term? If the answer is yes, then I support the referendum. I stand for continuity of a irrational change in the name of democracy. 3. If Uhuru and Raila support the referendum, who can stop it? If no one can stop it, then I will not waste my time fighting it. Is Ruto with me on this?
And now, our final thought. Raila will become the 6th president of Kenya. This fact is cast in stone. You cannot change it. However, he will become ceremonial president, a figurehead, a symbol of national unity like the Queen. His job will be to inspire patriotism, kiss babies and give medals to soldiers. And at the age of 80, he will do this job with grace and pomp. The referendum therefore will give us a win-win situation in 2022. Raila will be head of state and Jubilee will give us head of government. But there is a big puzzle here. If Raila is the ceremonial president in 2022, maybe Uhuru will be the executive prime minister, or maybe Ruto will be the executive prime minister under Raila. There is another combination. Maybe Uhuru will be the ceremonial president and Raila the executive prime minister. Or maybe Uhuru will be the ceremonial president and Ruto the executive prime minister. That is also possible. In our view, the referendum is an attempt to create an all-inclusive government. Whatever result it produces, we support the referendum. It will birth a new